help you when you're old. She's got the cushion for the pushing of the love so true. When she's talking to me, I know she's looking at you. She says there is no other, no need to question why. She's always on the phone talking to another guy. Okay, honey. This gonna hurt that. This gonna hurt me. God's on the line and my life's on hold. Don't believe what people say, 'cause their lives are all the same. God's on the line and my life's on hold. When you think that something's up, better watch out for the train.
Everyone, we have Don and John on the line. Tonight's show was rather impromptu, and we are going to go for the Hollywood scandal story instead of John McCain's death. It's going to be a short show. It's only 45 minutes tonight, and then we'll regroup, and Sunday we'll have a full-length show. So Asia Argento was a lover of a young man named Jimmy Bennett, and her lover, Anthony Bourdain, paid off this underage lover to avoid scandal. Now, there is some things in question regarding this new Hollywood development story in lieu of the MeToo movement and the Harvey Weinstein victims. I'm going to start at the beginning and make it brief, and John has all the dirt, and Don's going to just have to go along with it. Actress Rosie McGowan has spoken out in support of Jimmy Bennett, the former childhood actor who claims he was sexually assaulted by Asia Argento, an Italian actress, in 2013. Now, one thing I want to throw in there, that the age of consent in Europe is 14, and Asia Argento claimed that she might have been confused when she was with this young lover as far as the age gap. and she wasn't quite sure of his age when she initially slept with him, but later she said that she never slept with him, even though there's pictures of them in bed together. In a lengthy statement, McGowan said what allegedly happened to Bennett when he was 17 wasn't fair or right. Italian actress Argento, a key figure in the MeToo movement, has admitted paying Bennett $380,000 in American dollars, or 294,000 pounds, but denies any sexual misconduct. Text messages have since surfaced that appear to cast doubt on that final assertion. In her statement, McGowan claims Argento admitted sleeping with Bennett in messages sent to Rain Dove, McGowan's other partner, or current partner. Some of these messages, alleged to be from Argento, have been published by TMZ. Now, I myself watched a clip on TMZ, and supposedly Anthony Bourdain, who's long dead now, there were texts from him and Argento indicating the payoff to Bennett. McGowan said she had bonded with Argento over the past year through their shared experience of the Harvey Weinstein case. By the way, Ben's on the line too, and I'm pulling you all in 30 seconds because we have a short show. Both actresses have accused the disgraced movie mogul of rape charges Weinstein has himself denied. Anyways, now McGowan has kind of estranged herself from Asia Argento and acted like the troubadour nightingale of purity. With that, I'm going to have John start us out because it was his suggestion to do this. We're going to hold off on the McCain story till next week, and I have to refresh my page. Good evening, John.
Well, good evening, Jane Hammer and Sickelstein. How are you?
Now, I just want to give Don and Ben the warning, who are also on the air, that it was John Yoder's choice 30 minutes ago to turn political gravity into Hollywood mayhem. So it's his topic.
I take full responsibility. And, you know, it's interesting because there are counterpoints to everything. I like Asia Argento in many respects, and I think she had a very troubled childhood. I don't think most of us have been put in movies when we were children growing up where your mom is graphically killed. She's beautiful, and her dad used to do violent horror slasher flicks, Scream Queen flicks. So in Italy, that's what they're known for. So you can kind of imagine if every day is, you know, you're making movies like The Manson Family, basically you're going to have some troubled images. And being that it's your dad producing these things, your mom's in them, and then you're acting in them, you're going to, I think, have some scars, especially when you're trying to get daddy's approval. So I've seen some of her career as it's grown. And I guess some of the bigger issues that come up is what about people's privacy? You know, it seems like everyone, the minute you have a conversation or text or email someone's going to fire it out on social media or put it out to the news and crucify you. And I think we have to at some point start wondering, are we safe to talk to anyone about anything? I'll give you an example. Like, say what if the child was 17 years, 364 days, 23 hours, and 59 seconds, and you have some sexual relationship? 2 seconds later, are you innocent? And 2 seconds earlier, are you guilty? I guess by the law, you are. But there's a certain point where, you know, sometimes we're splitting hairs and justice. And, you know, Asia had made the mistake of going very public at Cannes in May and just blasting Harvey Weinstein, while at the same time she was putting together payments to pay off this kid, and she'd known what she had done. Apparently Jimmy was in a movie with her that she wrote and directed and produced, in which he played a small child that was a boy that was dressed up as a girl to allure men. And so you can see where their relationship was pretty screwed up to begin with anyway. Asia says when he was about 12, he started sending her inappropriate pictures of himself naked. And for whatever reason, she didn't block it. She didn't stop it. She just rolled with it. This according to Rose. And then basically got together with him in Marina del Rey in a hotel, apparently performed oral and then had intercourse with him. This is what she has admitted to Rose and to Rain Dove, Rose's
Can
lover.
we pregnant pause this a minute? I do have to just make sure that Ben and Don have a pulse. And I'm going to let you talk 10 more minutes, but then we have to recap it because I want to segue into how in this age of the MeToo environment, Miss Lewinsky, Monica Lewinsky, was uninvited to a lifestyle magazine invitation on social change because Bill Clinton was attending, and see how things change cohesively when they want to please the dominant male and push the victim-like woman aside. So first, let's just say hi to Don and Ben and see if they're aware of this topic. Hi, Ben and Don.
Hello.
Hi. So
Hello.
John is trying. Hi, Don. Are you guys following the story that we're trying to do?
I lived it, so I don't have to follow it. But go ahead. I'm just getting home from work about half an hour ago, so I'm kind of getting.
Yeah, I know. We didn't. I accidentally scheduled the show for the wrong time. I don't have time to explain it right now, but I just got home from work too, and I didn't have time to change it. Ben, do you understand what John's talking about?
Yeah, it was coming together. I'm not familiar with the headline or the story, and I didn't really pay attention to the details of Weinstein either.
Well, the whole Weinstein... Yeah, John, why don't you explain? I'm going to give you the floor again. Please give Ben a recap about why so many women came forward on Weinstein, and then he was formally charged by the New York police just about a month or 3 months ago. I'm not sure the time frame.
Well, what's really interesting is how the press and the media is going to cover this, because you can imagine this is similar to what's happening politically. You have allegations. You have the perpetrator, if you want to call it, paying off hush money, and then this person is going public. You know, it's almost like a blackmail type of situation, and people are being crucified before there's even a trial, and people are making conclusions. But the point is, this is being treated differently. They basically, Jane hadn't even heard about it, really. It was very quiet, yet every day, the whole thing is the president paid off, women for sex, and there were hush payments made, and it came out of this particular fund. And it's like this has nothing to do with the government, nothing to do with Russian collusion. It's just all about a political, let's get rid of someone. Now, here you have someone that people don't really want to get rid of because she is in a movement that is very important. Women do get abused and have been abused. And so there's a kind of a hands-off approach, like, well, can we make this as quiet as possible? We don't really want to, crucify her. But she is doing the same actions. I have a feeling with Asia, because she is not as powerful as Harvey Weinstein and wasn't, bankrolling major projects, you probably won't see 50 people come out and say she abused them. And because she doesn't have a male organ, she probably wasn't, going after every person out there. She's just kind of a troubled woman, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of bodies under her house. But the point is she's being treated differently right now, and it's going to really cause a lot of shade on the movement, because then people are going to start questioning everyone because she was so vocal about it. And I know as I'm talking, maybe some of us are even deleting some of our emails and texts right now.
Well, one thing is that I've always been saying when we get on this topic that the other shoe will drop, if you will, as the fact that many of the women in Hollywood were doing the same things. They and this is all in the past. This is all the culture. And one of these days, we're going to find several or many of those women where I guess the men would have to call it the Me movement, because MeToo is already...
The Me?
Yeah.
The meme?
Yeah, because the MeToo is already taken. So they've got to...
Did you know that one of the code words for the internet is meme? It's kind of like a mini memo.
Right. Mm-hmm.
No, that's meme.
That's meme.
You're thinking of meme.
No, M-E, isn't it meme? When you're like sending out a quick...
It's meme.
Nope.
But that's all right.
Okay, I'm going in the Urban Dictionary while you guys talk.
Well,
yeah,
you can.
It'll tell you how to say it right.
Right, exactly.
Well,
what's up,
by
Dan?
the way,
what's up, Don?
John,
Hey.
Asia Argento is spelled that way, not Asia Argento.
Either way, I actually like some of her work, and I thought she was an interesting, kind of a tomboy type of tough girl, kind of actress, and but basically, I think the kind of the bigger issue I think starts to run into just what kind of privacy rights do we have? Like, do we want government just and everyone digging into everyone's life? We all have sins, mistakes, and errors, and some are terrible, granted, but some it's like, are we going to dig and pry into everyone's little secret corner? But I'll give you an example. I've dated women where you're on a date and you're making out, and they want to go further, and they're being aggressive. They're like, I want to feel you inside of me. I'm trying to get this PG. But they're being graphic. They're grabbing. They're trying to, I guess, get an insurance policy on the guy. And, I don't know. Do I run and scream and say I was almost raped? And, and who would believe me? They would say, like, you shouldn't be complaining. You're the guy. But there's one of those, it's legal robbery. I mean, basically, for the rest of your life, you're paying child support and being connected to another person by being...
Child support?
Yeah, basically, you have sex with someone, and then they get pregnant, and then they have the control chip. And basically, they're taking a person's addiction, whether it's sex, the ability to procreate, the men are programmed to do that. It's taking advantage of that. I mean, you see it all the time. You see a rich guy running around with this very beautiful woman, and it's like, how did she get into his car? She's beautiful.
Well, I do have a point to be made. I have a question about this and then a comment. First of all, when I was 25, I slept with a 15-year-old, but it didn't seem to be a big deal back then. Secondly, why did they have to pay this teenager off? Because was something about to leak because she was a leader for the MeToo movement? And I think $380,000 is rather steep. After all, he was 17.
Well, the thing is, he wanted $4 million. Just to give a little background, he was in a few movies, and one of them was with Asia, and then basically he was kind of living off of that as a child. I don't know who was managing his money, but when he got to be 17, this event happened. And between 17 and now, he's like probably about 22-ish.
So what year did they pay him off? Was it right before Anthony Bourdain iced himself?
Well, it was because Anthony recommended that they pay him off, and Anthony kind of took charge as far as, here's your lawyer who set it up. because Anthony had a lot more business experience, and he's like, in working with his shows, it's like, you need to do this, just settle it quietly, just pay some hush money and let it go away. But basically, the kid for the last 5 years hasn't gotten work, and a lot of it is, for most kids, actors, they don't get work after when they grow up because they're, you have to transition, you have to become an adult star, and he wasn't. So he started saying, I could make a lot of money off of this, especially since she's so vocal. So he actually told her he wanted $4 million. And then the compromise was, if you look at it from his angle, I'm losing all this income that I was making, so therefore I'll blame it. I'm traumatized by this thing that happened when I was 17. That's why I can't get work, and it screwed up my whole life, and I need compensation. So then they said, well, let's give him how about $400,000, $500,000. We'll do it in payments, $10,000 a month. And his people said yes. Now, but here's where, again, it goes very Trumpish and very Clinton. Is like, basically, they're doing this stuff. She makes a big speech at Con, and then he says, you know what? I've been abused. It's like, I need to talk about this. It's like, you're taking money to not talk about this. So that's where it gets really dicey again.
Okay, we do only have 20 minutes of the show, so I'm going to segue into some questions for Ben and Don, so we can all equally have a lively discussion. First, Ben, a meme is an element of culture or system of behavior that might be considered to be passed from one individual to another by non-genetic means, especially imitation, or the other version is a humorous image, video, or piece of text that is copied and spread rapidly through the internet.
Yeah. A meme.
So I guess
you say
I knew it was something like a memo, but I guess it's more like a GIF, like a moving image that people instantly gravitate to. But my question for you, Ben, is I briefly brought up the Clinton story that Monica Lewinsky made a funny remark. I'll bring it up in 5 minutes because I erased it by mistake. But so in these types of historical contexts where there's all this advocacy going around for for women trying to say how men should behave, but then culture turns its back on itself, and then does things like invite Bill Clinton to an event and just Monica Lewinsky. What do you think about this cultural ramifications in these kind of like in these posing ways where people behave differently in different settings?
Well, there's a completely double standard. Anybody that says we're completely equal as men and women are false. There's different types of success, and some women go out and earn and actually take a foothold in something that they're good at and rise to the top. Some other women can seek out success and use sexual advances to bring themselves up to that level or to get other options of success by being around a certain group or a certain person. So there's totally
another thing is let's say somebody like just think of a very powerful woman like Vanessa Williams or Serena Williams. Like let's just say like someone like her or a masculine woman. I'm not thinking really of Madonna, but let's say someone like that seduced Bill Clinton. Like Monica Lewinsky is not really a victim. She flashed her whatever those skimpy underwear is at the guy, and she was a guilty party. She wasn't really a victim, even though she probably knew Clinton was sexually weak. But I'm just going to read this quote that Lewinsky wrote on Twitter. Dear world, please don't invite me to an event, especially one about social change, and then after I've accepted, uninvite me because Bill Clinton then decided to attend. In 2018, Emily Post would definitely not approve. So do you think if someone like Monica Lewinsky, who is kind of an unknown intern, but yet seem kind of submissive to Bill Clinton. What if it was somebody tougher like Madonna who would have just told the media to fuck off? I mean, like, she wouldn't have had to ride that battle of having a 25 to 30 year stigma for having had sexual relations with a president, even though it wasn't fourth base. Donna,
you think Madonna
anybody
doesn't
can answer.
serve masters? Madonna didn't get where she's at by telling everybody to F off. She did things for people that they wanted her to.
Are you
talking about
however she wants?
Are you calling
it?
Saying
Madonna was on her knees in prayer many times for favors.
I'm not making any.
You guys
any
really don't know that. She
no,
slept
I don't,
with Jelly Bean, but she slept with Jelly Bean Benitez, but they were co-partners in production. He didn't have power over her.
We're talking, Jane. We're talking Hollywood. I know for a fact that
the music industry is like one of the most brutal, like making people submissive in the beginning, and then promising all this cash and diamonds and everything, and gold records and deals.
Just so you know, Madonna started out in New York, though. She didn't start out in L.A.
It doesn't matter. They have their hands everywhere.
New York, L.A. is just one is for movies, and one is more or less for live. That's the only difference between New York and L.A. Otherwise,
I guess in the bigger picture, what is John trying to say, and is anything ever going to change? But things have changed a little.
Good comparison.
Because Bill Cosby got brought down, and that took a lot.
But look, Lewinsky's name is famous now. If she didn't have sperm on her chest, she would not be famous. So why don't you understand that concept?
She didn't benefit from the fame. Did you know she has never gotten a job since then?
Because
she's gotten a couple paid interviews, but she hasn't gotten a job.
But that's because she doesn't need one. I mean, she's had more appearances. You know, she can make over $200,000 a year in appearance money and all that stuff. So she's set. That's enough to live on.
I might invite her on the show and see if you guys can handle it.
That's not a very good comparison, Jane. A better comparison wouldn't have been Madonna compared to Monica, because Madonna's an entertainer. She's an entertainer by nature anyway. But if you would actually compare Monica Lewinsky, who, whatever manipulation she was doing with her body and her sexual activity, that's not talent. I mean, that fades away. If she was 55 years old or 60, she wouldn't have been able to get anywhere but kicked out. That was her youth and her attractiveness at the time, which that loses its value. I would compare her to somebody like, I can't remember her name, but there's a woman who's an Army veteran, helicopter pilot, and an engineer who ran the building of the tunnel in London. I think it was London. And she was on top of every aspect of building that tunnel and all the pressure and all the water, because they had to go underneath the channel of the ocean. Not the ocean, but there was like a water channel.
Someone wouldn't even be attracted to
the English channel.
But building the tunnel under that was led by a woman who spent time building herself up, flying helicopters, being a veteran, and then going through the whole engineering and building aspect, and that's a totally different kind of human being. That's not flashing your underwear at somebody to try to get a little bit of power. That's earning every bit of it.
You know, I also want to say, just in deference, because I know John has more to say, you know, she was a young girl in the White House. She took a risk, and she kind of got what she wanted at the time. I just hope that she doesn't stand condemned her whole life, whether or not she's part of the MeToo movement or not.
She loves it, Jane. She loves it. She loves the notoriety, the ability
I don't
to
think
say,
so. I think she's ashamed and regrets it completely.
She was probably tired of it in the first year. I mean, they hit her hard in the news. I mean, everyone talked about it. Everybody made jokes. There was T-shirts and stickers and just
she was
jokes,
pretty dumb.
everything.
Do you guys think when she confided in Linda Tripp that she knew what she was doing to take Clinton down?
Yes, because Linda Tripp was straight up. Linda Tripp didn't pull any punches. And so she told probably Monica immediately what she wanted to do.
Well, I haven't heard from John in several minutes. So, John, what happened to you? Are you still obsessed with this Italian actress?
I'm actually enjoying the show because, again, I think we're at the crossroads of our society. I think that this world is going crazy, and that there's a divide.
Your phone is fading, John. You're going to either have to put it on speaker, but you can't call back in. It's too late to call back.
Okay, well,
you're gonna
can you hear me now? Can you
a
hear
little
me
better.
Okay. I was going to say, I think as a country we'll have to decide just what direction are we going to go. Are we going to keep just going louder and prouder and just kind of balls to the walls, just everything out there? Or are we going to calm things down? And I think we're just getting way too much tech, way too much sharing of stuff, in the media. It's just everything you do gets recorded and gets blasted out there, and for monetary value, really, for attention, for hits, for commercial advertising. And I think at some point we're just going to have to decide as a country: are we going to go back to some old values and just kind of get off the Hollywood?
Well, I have a comment, and then I'm going to cut to Don and Ben and you. This is my last comment because we only have we have about 18 minutes left. I heard a thing when McCain died that said, this is kind of a segue, both the Republicans and the Democrats, you only hear from the extremes of the party, and it's become kind of a formal tribalism where each elected member of Congress only publicly talks about the strongest views of their party extremism, and that's kind of how social media is too. Like, every time something comes up on the news, everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and like, I even sent Donald Trump 4 mean tweets this week about John McCain. Like, nobody really has rational debate anymore, so I'll let Don or somebody else say something.
Who would you consider an extremist on the right that people hear about, people hear from?
There was, he's not an elected member of Congress, but I heard a long interview over the weekend about this painter in Idaho who has all these famous political vitriol paintings, and one of his bestsellers is he has all 45 presidents in a painting painted. Somebody's sitting at the desk with the Constitution, and he has a painting of Barack Obama who has his back to the other 40-some presidents, and he's stomping on the Constitution. And he's been able to sell about 100,000 of those. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
That's not even close to what you just said. You were talking about Congress or party members.
Well, I can't think of a name offhand because John put all these Hollywood people in my head right now, and you caught me off guard. I'm just trying to correct the typos in my show description, if you don't mind.
I'm just trying to figure out who you think is extreme, if it's from the right.
I guess Ted Cruz is one.
Extreme?
Yes. I heard that half the state of Texas doesn't even like him, even though he represents them. On a local level,
strike me as an
extremist. On a local level, it's the Wisconsin governor, Scott Walker, who's dismantled a lot of the security for cops and teachers, and actually has a cap on my job. I can't work more than 4 hours a day in a school. and I can't get any benefits at that job. Luckily, I have it with the other job. I can't really speak on a national level tonight because, you know what? Wade just got screwed over because can you guys talk until I handle this problem with Wade, please? Don or John or Ben, please talk.
Well, I was going to say, kind of going back to my point, what is extreme now, or what is liberal now, is from what it was 30 or 40 years ago. And if we look at history, not just 5 or 10 years, but I'm talking hundreds of years, just look at culture, there's a rise and there's a fall. And usually there's a morality drop as the culture goes by. A nation is born, it works hard, the fundamental family and respect and basically governing themselves in an orderly way. And there's great success from that. And then as success happens, children are born having a better life, a more spoiled life. And gradually, as it goes along, people stop working hard, stop having their morality, start becoming loose. And I mean, you look back in the Romans, they had these bathhouses they wanted. They would have circuses, they would have people in the Colosseum execute and kill for sport. And you just look at different cultures throughout the years, there's just kind of, when a moral decline happens, the culture falls. And I think we're just at that divide where we can go back morally, I'm talking fundamentally, with family values, with right and wrong, with the Constitution, with the Ten Commandments, whatever you want to as your foundation. Or you can veer from that and go into this brave new world where, with science and technology, we're cloning things. We're going robotic. We're redefining what is a man or a woman. What's male and female, and now we have like 50 or 60, 70 different classifications of people now. And example, no longer do they want to use the term genitalia. They want to instead use front hole for women. They want. What have we gotten to? We can't even describe body parts anymore without offending someone. And pretty soon, as long as something that offends someone, suddenly we can't say it anymore. So we have to look at: are we going to have our rights to free speech? Are we going to have the rights, as God-given rights in our Constitution, in our Declaration of Independence? Or are we going to go forward and just create new rules in court, in the justice system, and the consequences? And so I think we should go conservative. Now, there's others who want to go more, and that's where the voting booth is for. But I have a feeling we're heading towards a more civil war situation as these things get more aggressively violent. Any thoughts on that, Ben?
I don't see civil war. I was a little nervous about it during the election, but I think I don't see a civil war type atmosphere building. We're having little skirmishes, especially over free speech and stuff, but I really don't think. Of course, the left is good with organization because they're about identity and grouping people together, they're the ones that will put you in a category even if you do not see yourself in a category. They'll look at you and say, oh, you're a straight white male. That means that you belong to none of our categories. But if they see a black person who looks gay, they'll try to basically absorb you into one of their groups. If you're any type of a minority that they want to manipulate you into a group and use you as a voter, then they accept you. But if you bring up the word Constitution or if you talk about individual rights or private property or any of those things, or the Second Amendment, or if you say something that could offend any one of them, then you're not in their club. anymore.
Right. Well, what if, let's say, at the next election, the Democrats who have more voters continue to organize strongly, because they do that better, and they actually do win the House and they win the Senate, and the first move of business is impeach the president, and let's say they have enough control to do that, and the president is removed from office. Do you see a more peaceful, united country of the NRA?
We have time for two more answers. The show is going to end in 4 minutes. I see Mike from New York on the line. I'll bring him in close enough to say hi. Mike, we're only doing a 45-minute show tonight. It ends in 4 minutes. Do you want to say hi? Hi, Mike.
I'm here.
Yeah, I did email you about an hour ago. Unfortunately,
yeah.
I just came home from work. I didn't have time to buy premium tonight. Do you want to say hi to everybody and tell them how you're doing?
Okay. Hi, everybody. Doing fine. Just came in. I guess my timing was off tonight. I came in on a short show. But hi anyway. I'm here listening. You're all doing a great
Mike.
job as usual. How are you?
Did you call in 15 minutes ago or just now?
No, I called in about 15 minutes ago. I've been listening in.
Oh, crap. I was trying to handle another call. I didn't see you. I'm real sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry. I didn't know it was going to be a short night, and that's okay. Next time.
Well, he's gotten a feel for the last 15 minutes. Maybe he can throw a little Hail Mary in there and just kind of, capsulize some things or regroup some ideas.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know what the main topic was that kicked us off. If you were talking about the shooter in Jacksonville, or just politics in general, or the Antifa being taken on.
We were talking about a underage lover in Hollywood, so you're probably glad you missed it.
No, actually, John, why don't you ask your question again? You're asking a question about Donald Trump being removed, maybe kicking off a civil war.
Well, kind of what I was saying is the Democratic Party is very well organized, better than the Republican, and if they do have more voters, so let's just say the midterms, they do vote in they control, say, the Senate and the House, and the first item of business would be to remove Donald Trump or try to impeach him. And let's say he got voted out. At that point, where would our country be? You have conservatives have been kind of quiet, but suddenly some people would just say, we just don't accept this. We don't want this. In a certain level, let's march and protest. And if they march and protest, that the other groups will meet them, and suddenly things could get very violent. Do you think we're heading to a civil?
Well, first off,
let him answer now, John, because it's cutting off in a minute.
Yeah. I think it's all hypothetical. Number one, that I don't think it'll ever happen, because take a look at the definition for impeachment. What will be required from them, and it can't be something that happened 10 years ago, or something that happened before the election. That's not going to make a difference. War. Yeah. So about the impeachment, they'll never have a chance to do it. Now, would it ever come down to it? There's still a lot of anger out there, and there's still a silent majority out there, and the Antifa people and the liberals and everything else better pray to God that they don't meet us in the street. Because if it ever comes down to it in the street, it's not going to end well for them.
There will be a civil war. That happens.
Yeah. If it ever comes down to it, and they push for it. Right now, the police are doing a great job.
You guys want to take a vote and call back in 15 minutes?
Well, I think we do have some overtime. If you just let it roll, it'll probably keep going for 15 minutes.
No, this is the overtime. Call back in 15.
It'll stop, Mike.
Yeah, Call back in 15 minutes if you want. Well, okay, it might not stop because last time it went, so keep talking.
Okay, but I think the media's done a good job on getting a lot of people paranoid, nervous about what happens if Trump does get impeached, or what happens. It's not going to happen. Even the hierarchy on the Democrats, even Pelosi and the rest of them, no, they admitted. They said it's not a priority, right? They know it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen with what they have. And they don't have anything else legitimate to charge them with.
I just talked to a high-ranking person in Minnesota government who thinks impeachment proceedings are going to start on Trump as early as January.
Yeah, I doubt it. It's all It's all a show just to keep their constituents happy. Look, we're doing something. Vote for me again in the next election. Look, I'm a liberal Democrat, and I did the best I could to make sure we impeached that SOB. But in reality, their hands are tied. They can't do anything, and they don't have anything legitimate to charge them on. Look up impeachment and what charges are required for it. They don't. High crimes? What high crimes? Treason? What did he do? And also, what has he done for the country, for the economy and everything? I mean, he's done more than any of the presidents that we've had recently. He's done more for the economy and put the country back on track, and that is eating them up. It's driving them berserk. So what they're doing everything they can to ruin his name and turn people against him, and they're doing a great job. People are buying it. They're drinking the Kool-Aid, and they're listening to the media, and and you talked to a high-ranking, and I think I mentioned it to you before. I've got a good friend of mine that's with the Secret Service. I've known him for years, and he told me himself. He said, "Don't listen to the media. Don't be." He said, "This guy's doing a phenomenal job," and he said, "The media." He said, "Trump has made enemies on both the Democrats and the Republican side, but the people that hate him the most." These Democrats and Republicans are people that have been making millions at the expense of the taxpayer. They've had their own scams running for years. Now Trump came in and stopped it. They hate him. Right. He's not one of their group. And I told him, if that's the case, good for him. I'd rather see him stop the scams. Good for him.
Here's a hypothetical. If they actually were successful in removing Trump, hypothetically, Pence could pardon him, and Pence would be the president, then he could appoint Trump to be vice president and then resign, and Trump would be the president again, and then he could hire Trump or hire Pence to be his vice president all over again. It's back to square one.
If they pulled a game like that, I think they'd have a lot of people in the streets, not just Republicans. They'd have
I think that would be a little far-fetched.
They're playing us for fools. Bad enough we've been played by the Democrats for fools for years. I think that would be, but it wouldn't come down to that. It really wouldn't come down to that, right? Right now, he's got generals on his side. He's got generals. He's got patriots on his side. He's got the military on his side. The good guys in the NSA. And nobody talks about the silent majority, and there's a lot of us out here that are still angry. Right now, my business is coming back up on its feet after 8 years of Obama.
Why do you think you see so many liberals? Why do you think you see so many Democrats marching in the street, so many liberals and students? Because they have nothing better to do. Right. When you start pulling people out of their jobs, when you mess up my workday, if I have to go do something, it's gonna be a million people like me that are pissed off and handle business.
Yep.
All I want to do
by
is
the way, there were 50 protests. There were 50 protesters at the Minnesota State Fair blocking traffic, and they get an average of 2 million visitors in a 10-day period.
And what a stupid move for Antifa to protest a pro-police march in Philadelphia, was it? This recently over the past week? Did you see the videotape on what happened with that?
No.
The police were ripping them apart. These guys had the audacity, Antifa, to do an anti-fascist march against a pro-police rally or march that the policemen were holding. It was their own event. And Antifa showed up, and they got their asses handed to them. The police
because they don't know war. They know protest.
No.
They don't know what a war is.
They've alienated nationwide. Law enforcement looked at that. You know they did. And they're like, really? Okay. Let's see Antifa come back to our city. So we don't have to do anything. They've done it to themselves. They exposed themselves. Like Elizabeth Warren, that stupid comment from Pocahontas now that she wants to federalize all major corporations in America, have the government take them over completely, any corporation that makes over $1 billion a year. To have the government
is that called communism?
Is she out of her mind? They're exposing themselves. They've become so frantic now. They're so freaked out that they're not even trying to hide their agenda. They're out in the open with it, and it's hysterical watching them. They're squirming in their seats. So, the utopian dreams are over. It's reality's coming to their dinner table, and they don't like it.
Well, Mike, this is a country of individuals, and this is what I tell a lot of people. So the individual has to take responsibility for his own actions, his own life, and his own destiny. I always say on the show that everyone is living the dream. Everyone is living the way that they want to live, and we should just let them live it and live our lives and be happy. That's the main thing. And so our governmental politicians are going down the drain. I deal with them all day long, every day, and they've gone down the drain. Once they get in there, after the first year, their political bosses get a hold of them, and they're done. But for the most part,
no, I agree with you. I agree with you. I've seen it firsthand. Yep.
The main thing is that you have to, as an individual, access a person who's going to control your life. You should access your legislators personally as soon as they're voted in. You make an appointment as an individual, and when I say you, I mean pejorative you, everyone, should make an appointment with their legislator and make sure that they meet them and give them a list or an idea of what they want, because the legislators are, for the most part, relatively ignorant once they're in office. This is what I do, and I'm a lobbyist, a citizen lobbyist, so I talk to these guys all the time. And the best thing to do as an individual, as every individual, is to go down to their office as the first 2 weeks that they've been elected and talk to them. All politicians must talk to their constituency.
Right. But there's only one problem with that. I agree with you 1,000,000%. But what you don't realize is before they even go into office and get sworn in, they've already got a collar on them. They already have a dog collar on them. And that's where the problem is. I saw it with
it's not,
a congressional race that I was very active in. And before the election even took place, somebody from the Republican Party went in there and they said, okay, this is what we can do for you. And they weren't high-ranking. They were a staffer. They said, we can get you this money from here. We can do this for here. We can do that for there. Now, that person ended up being named as the chief of staff for this congressperson. And the day that this person was elected, that night, after the election was over, she fired everybody that was worked on her campaign staff, including her manager, the campaign manager, because the powers that be in Washington told her that you don't need any of these people now. These people were only useful to get you in office, but they don't know how Washington works. We have a complete mechanism that will provide you with the staffers you need to make your office run.
Correct.
And that's when she started going down the slope. That's when things changed. And that started before the election even took place. So I agree with you. And, I mean, I'd love to take the staffers out of the equation. Get them the hell out of there, too. Let these people do their job. They don't need all these staffers with baggage from other politicians in there, because that doesn't work in our best interest. They're working in their own best interest. They don't care about us.
Well, that's the problem. And that's why the individual voter should access their politician as soon as possible, as soon as they're elected into office, and that way they can tell their legislator right face to face, I do not appreciate the fact that you fired X number of people just because Washington said. Are you going to do what Washington always says, or are you going to serve your constituency? So that's something that every individual in America, every citizen is responsible for doing just that. Attend your city council meetings, county commission meetings. You make sure that you talk to them whenever you can. If you're coming out of the church or if you're coming out of the store and you see a legislator, you don't let him go or he or her go. You go up there and you say, I'm so and so, and this is what I think. They're on call 24/7, especially when they're in session, and don't people should not be afraid to introduce themselves and say what they think.
Well, here's something that bothered me a little bit when I looked at my ballot. There was a lot of names for senator. There was parties that I've never even heard of. I mean, people can just make up their own party name and run. But when you flip the ballot over, there was the other offices, and there was probably 5 positions that only had one single Democrat to vote for. I mean, what's the point in checking anything? You could write in something, but they only had one Democrat listed for the position, and the sheriff was one of those positions. One single name, Democrat for sheriff, and that scares me because the sheriff position is the most important position in any local area. I mean, that's the most powerful position in any municipality, because the sheriff could arrest anyone in that area. They could arrest the mayor if they want to. If the mayor broke the law, the sheriff could arrest the mayor. And I just don't understand how somebody could be a Democrat nowadays and be constitutional. So I didn't check any of those boxes because, to me, the Democrat Party has showed their true colors, and that's not who I want for a sheriff. That's what we're going to get because there's so many Democrats here that will vote him back in, even though there's only one name. But I just don't see how somebody can be constitutional.
I have a quick announcement. Wait, for everyone on the line. Is John still here? John, I can barely hear you. My page dropped off. I can't see your calls. I have no idea when the show is ending, but I'm putting Don in charge. I have school orientation tomorrow. Just keep talking. The show is probably going to go another hour or 45 minutes. So thank you for joining me. I'll talk to you guys Sunday. Good night.
All right, Jane, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jane.
The show's not ending, but you guys can keep talking.
Right,
thank you. Don's in charge. Good night.
All right.
All right. Good night, Jane. All right, that was pretty abrupt. But
okay, now that she's not here, let's all meet up. We're going out to the bar. We're going to go partying tonight. Listen, I'll meet you guys out front in 10 minutes.
I work way too hard to go partying.
Oh, come on. Well, it's that thing you say, the cat's away, the mice will play, so I thought I'd throw that out there. I know she's listening.
Yeah, no, but I was going to say something just like that. I was going to say, since Mike didn't get here until later, did you have anything that was a related issue or agenda item that we were talking about, or did you have something on the East Coast that you wanted to allay?
No, there was something that I read. Now I'm trying to look it up now. There was something bizarre about some primary elections that were going on today, and the numbers. I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was something like in one district there were supposed to be, I don't know, I'll just pick a number, 1,500 people that lived and were registered in that district, but they ended up with something like 2,800 votes. And they said, this is being looked into. It's a serious issue. And so I'm wondering, with the upcoming elections, if the Democrats are going to try something insane. I hope not. Because all eyes are going to be on these elections.
We were talking about this a little bit last week, and I think if you remember, we were talking about the voting machines, the possibilities of the voting machines. I'm not sure if it was Ben or not, but anyway, we were talking about the voting machines and their unreliability.
No, I agree with you.
This is something that we're going to have to really look at as a democratic republic.
Yeah, and on my end, it's something that it's not tinfoil hat stuff. I'm always skeptical about some of this stuff. It's like, yeah, really, yeah, but I dealt with it and ran into it firsthand. What happened was this guy, Montgomery Delaney, was running for Supreme Court in New York in my district. and I was one of the poll watchers for the Republicans in my town. And so I stayed,
right.
And what I also did was I would run over to and I'd pick up the sheets, the voting sheets they'd give me, so we'd be able to do a tally of how many Republicans have voted within each district. And I'd go to my block and pick up the sheets after so many hours and everything fine. Now, when the time came and the polls closed, my job, and everybody had their own, I'd go to those machines, which happened to be where my wife and I also voted earlier in the day, on those machines. And I went to pick up the sheets from that machine. Now, my town is predominantly Democrat. I mean, we're outnumbered over here. All right, fine. But my wife and I voted for Montgomery Delaney. So I know we voted for him. Now, it came in time and the machine spit out. It's one of those electronic where you feed the paper in and it scans it and records it electronically.
Right.
And it came time and it spit out the thing, and they're reading off the numbers to me. This candidate, this many votes. This candidate, this many votes. Montgomery Delaney, 0 votes. I went, what?
Okay.
Check your numbers again, because I know for a fact I voted on that machine that you just pulled that slip out of, and my wife and I voted on it, so there should be 2 votes on there for Montgomery Delaney at least for him. And they did it again, and it came up 0 votes. So right away I flagged it. They came, they sealed the machine, and they took it away. And it took something like 3 weeks or a month for them to hand count and go through it with people watching it and everything else to find. And I never found out what the problem was, but after that now, after seeing that firsthand, it's like, yeah, no, something's up. Something is up. I can't believe that would have happened, but it did.
No, that's why we might have to get back to paper ballots. We might have that. I don't know if we're going to have that bill draft on our Nevada legislative session this time, but we've been talking about it. This is we've had problems in our counties, a couple of our counties with inappropriate counts. Mike, when did you say you were a poll watcher when that happened?
Oh my God, this is it was years ago. I forget. It was, I think, the last time Montgomery Delaney ran for office, which I'd have to look up to find out what year that was. It's got to be at least 6 years ago.
Okay, because there have been a couple of instances. Of course, we know that Al Gore should have been president, and Ben might have something to say, but Al Gore should have been president. He was his election was taken, but the last couple of elections, I've noticed that on election night there have been gaps of time that there haven't been reports of any precincts in the country, and so it's usually about anywhere from about 60 minutes to 45 minutes in each of the last 2 elections. And after they come back, some of those figures change drastically percentage-wise. So,
I found the article. Not to interrupt, but I found the article before they cut us off. It's dated 8/12/2018. August 12th, this happened. It said in Georgia, 670 ballots in a precinct with 276 voters.
Mm-hmm.
It says, and the article's coming out of Washington. It's from MSN. And it says, Habersham County Mud Creek Precinct in northeastern Georgia had 276 registered voters ahead of the state's primary elections in May. But 670 ballots were cast, according to the Georgia Secretary of State office, indicating a 243% turnout.
Yeah.
The discrepancy included in a number of sworn statements and exhibits filed as part of a federal lawsuit against the state by election security activists. So we got issues. I mean, I don't want to see this repeated with a major election coming up, but it makes you wonder. It worries you.
Oh no, this election will be hacked also. As long as we put our efforts into the machines, because where it happens, like where you found it, it happens after the ballot has been cast, but before, generally right before it's been it's recorded. And that's where a lot of those changes occur in the ballot. So this is something that is going to be chronic, and it's going to be deliberate. These are very, very interesting times with the actual American fabric. And what's going to happen is that we're going to lose all of our trust, all of our honesty, and our useful enthusiasm, and we're going to become an older, slowing, aging civilization. And it's just a part of life. It's just natural. But when you get the dogs turning against their owners, like it's almost happening now, that's when, as I said earlier, civil war is imminent.
Well, I see. I mean, in my local town, we've got a Facebook page for our town. It's closed to members of the town. And these idiots, it's nothing but fighting. And what makes it worse is they elected, I didn't vote for them, but I know them. I've got a cell phone number, for God's sakes. I'm not a big fan of any of these guys, but I'm a fan of common sense. And he's a young black guy. He used to be a rapper, and they elected him as mayor. And a lot of people just hate him. I think they hate him outright because he was a rapper and he was a kid and it wasn't experienced, but okay, whatever. And so yesterday they were having a field day jumping on him because he came out and ordered the flags lowered for McCain's funeral and ordered that they be lowered and kept at half-mast until McCain is buried. All right, that's fine. Well, I guess yesterday morning everybody got up and the flag was not lowered half-mast and it stayed at full mast for the whole day. And they were bitching and they were complaining and I got on there and I had already spent, I can't tell you how many posts defending Trump because I showed them the regulation that was out there on the Army education site that it is, even though 1954 Eisenhower signed in protocols stating that for a senator, it would be kept, they said, typically from the day he's buried until the day he dies till the day he's buried. But for some reason, it was amended, and they've been doing normally for a standard senator or congressman 2 days. Trump kept it up for 2 days, and then he put it back up to full staff. He kept it down for the 2 days per regulation, and then he put it back up to full. Then everybody went nuts. They were blaming, he's disrespecting. Well, they came in on our mayor, the same thing. He's disrespecting McCain. He's another liberal. He's a Democrat. And I came in and I said, you idiots. I said, something like this is probably human error. Somebody made a mistake. The mayor did the right thing, and he ordered it, put down. Somebody in City Hall didn't do it, and you're trashing the mayor for this? Don't you have people have a life or anything better to do? I said, look for the major issues. Don't trash the man for something like this. He did nothing wrong. And right away, the mayor clicked like on my post, even though he's a Democrat, and I'm a diehard redneck. And you know what I did? I called him up, and this is 11:30 at night, right after he clicked like. And I told him, he started laughing. He said, Mike, I didn't expect you to do that. I said, no, what's right is right. And I said, these people are just being assholes, and they're after you for no reason. They don't deserve it. And the same way they're going after Trump. I said, because they've created a cult of anger. They need a constant champion, and they want to attack anybody, including, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, they're out to nail and crucify anybody they can. The anger that's out there is pretty bad. So.
Right. And the thing is that this culture, the PC America, politically correct, everything has to be in its place kind of life doesn't exist. And so when this guy, who apparently, it sounds like he might have made a mistake, or somebody made a mistake. But,
well, you know what he told me? He said the city manager was on vacation, Mike, and I put out the order that it be put to half-mast. And the city manager, and the order never got given, it was never given to the Department of Public Works to lower all the flags in the city. Okay, they dropped the ball. He said, I'm sorry, I put out the order, but, he was on vacation still. He was coming back.
But you know what? So, what'll save him is you and the fact that he's being transparent publicly if, in fact, he did apologize.
Right.
Just like you did.
Right. And I'm sure a lot of the conservatives are looking at me posting on it going, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you defending this Democrat, this kid? It's like, enough. Right is right and wrong is wrong. I don't care about the parties. If you really screwed up and we're talking about a serious issue here, yeah, I'll come in. And I did. Before the election, this guy was working at a VA hospital. So what he did was he put a picture of himself right next to the seal of the Veterans Administration. And I told him, I said, take that down immediately. You never served, and you don't have the right to put that up there and to fool people, make them think, mislead people into thinking you're a veteran. Remove that seal right now. And I did it on Facebook, and he wouldn't do it. He said, no, I've got a relative that served, and my father was in the Air Force, and so I have the right to put that up. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're misleading people into thinking that you're a veteran. And I said, if you don't, I'm going to call in the people from Stolen Valor, and we're going to turn this into a mess. So do it now. Just remove the post. Very simple. And it turned into a battle. He ended up removing it immediately. So last night when I got him on the phone, first time I spoke to him since then, I said, you know how adamant I am when it comes to protecting our veterans and our soldiers. And he said, yeah, I kind of learned that firsthand. I said, there was nothing against you because if you notice, ever since then, I've never come in there and trashed you for sport. No, you got a job to do. You were elected. I expect you to do the job, and I have no problem with you. And he said, Mike, I appreciate that. And I mean, like I said, I'm not going to be a but for some reason, there's an attitude out there where people don't agree with, think the way that I do, that there has to be a middle ground, and you've got to deal with the other side. You've got to have discussions. You've got to have dialogue. They don't feel that there should be any dialogue. This thick-headed, me first, I'm right, and I'll kill you to prove that I'm right attitude is going to ruin this country. So as far as civil war coming around full circle, yeah, in many ways, I could see limited, in some places, I could see it happening. And especially now with this training that they've been pushing for about 5 years. Have you ever heard of Facl training?
No, you're talking about Aryan Nation training?
No. This is scary stuff. Look up when you get a chance, when we're offline, FACL. Put in FACL training. Now, they asked me if I wanted to go to one of these training seminars. I said, absolutely not. What this does is it takes Republicans and it turns them into fanatics. What they're doing is they're saying that there's a reason that the gays, it says there's a reason that the gay groups, the gay lobbyists and everything else get what they want. What you have to do is you have to go into that politician's office and tell them that you either do things the way we expect or we will purposely vote for a Democrat to put you out of office.
Right.
I said, are you out of your mind? That might work in some states, but here in New York where you're outnumbered, you don't want to lose any seats. You'd never threaten a politician. But you're not making friends like this. You're making it harder for us. What are you doing?
Well,
that's the only way they think they can win now, is this FACL training.
Well, that's what they do in our legislature here in Nevada. I've been lobbying, doing citizen lobby work for 9 years. 9 years now, and this last session was the first session that there were no groups of legislators, lawmakers taking those who didn't have the vote or weren't going to give the vote to their side down in the stairwell to kick their ass. This is the first legislative session, and that's because it was we're now Democrat in the Assembly. So this is something that it's real. What you just mentioned, the way that the politics works is actually going down and kicking somebody's ass. And that's really animalistic, it's uncivilized, and our white leaders are, they should be ashamed of themselves and get another job.
I don't know if white leaders. I don't know whether they're white, black, or what they are. But I know that it's doing nothing but it's fracturing the Republicans. It's creating more problems, and they shouldn't be doing this type of thing. You don't go in and threaten your representative.
Have you seen most of the Republican get-togethers? There aren't too many people of color in there at all. But
I think that's, I've seen that, which I don't understand it, because if you actually look at the history, like that one article that I keep bringing up from 1876, 1874, from the New York Times, called Shotgun Canvass, where the Democrats had Democrats with shotguns on the sides of the road down south. And these slaves, they were slaves. They got their freedom now, but they were being intimidated by the Democrats and forced to vote for the Democratic Party. That was the game that the Democrats were doing. And I look at this and said, if I was black, the last thing I want to do, I'd really want to do my homework first before I go voting for any Democrat. As I don't want to be used as a tool and manipulated by anybody. But
yeah, I'm reading it right. I looked it up.
Huh?
I'm reading it right now, and the mission statement on this, their logic is, and this is in quotes, unless you are politically feared, you will not be politically respected.
Do you see it?
I don't agree with that at all.
That is the mantra, though, Ben. That is the mantra.
You can. What's that?
That is the mantra, though. And your president is proving it resoundingly. If you're not the loudest.
You can be respected without trying to make people fear you. I mean, my dad was a good example of that. My dad held himself in a way that he didn't need to intimidate people. He expected people to do as good as him or the best they could do at least. But he never had to threaten anybody, but he was respected by everybody that met him. He never had to threaten or harm anybody or
if you're a businessman and you're a successful businessman, to many people that's intimidating. They're afraid of that because they know right away this guy's worth millions. If this guy wants, he could buy every house around me, turn it into a cesspool. He could ruin me. This guy, they're intimidated by that. So when they look at somebody like Trump that comes in forcefully, and that's what this country needed at the time, somebody with a set of balls to come in, because all the politicians that we've had so far don't and haven't had a set of balls. This is what the country needed.
Career politicians get lazy.
Yeah, career politicians. They've done more damage. It's great for them. Politics have served them well. Hasn't served us well. So until now.
But do you remember? I mean, all the intimidation that Trump did on the campaign trail. He was one of the most vicious, vile, disrespectful.
Right. And I was right behind him because that's what was needed. Because when you're dealing with the media and the type of assholes that are out there, if you run for office, they're going for your throat. Well, son of a bitch, guess what? This politician turned around and went back for their throat. Do you remember the first set of women that came out? And he went after them and he threatened to sue them, and all of a sudden they shut up. Because he has armies of lawyers. If he wanted to sue them, he could and go after them. And now all of a sudden the media found out that we're not dealing with a typical politician here. This guy, he has the ability to do some damage. So they're afraid of that. They're intimidated by that. And they hate him. They turn the media and everybody against him. They'd rather have a milk toast.
But this is the problem, though. The way that he did it. I mean, he did it like the Nazi Union boss.
Good for him. Good for him.
No. Then that.
Yeah, good for him. And he won, didn't he? Because the American people bought it. Because I'll tell you what, the Richard Simmons approach failed.
Yeah, but anybody who believes what he did, he's got 16 women who have accused him of rape or some kind of sexual abuse. He's got all kinds of other obligations that, he absconded with money, used cheap labor, and didn't pay a lot of the vendors. He's an ultimate scab. And for him to be the president
and
of
I'll
the
tell you
United
what,
States,
and people hate him because he's a success. People are jealous. And he did it, and he's a success. He succeeded.
Success is relative. Right now,
right. It's relative.
Right now, he has drug his family's name through the mud. The only people who really can stand Donald Jr. and Gerald Krishner and Ivanka and all, the only people that can say that with a smile on their face are their inner circle. Otherwise, if somebody says, "Oh, I like Jared Krishner," I haven't heard anybody ever say that. Yeah,
and you know what? History will judge him 100 years from now. History will take all of this complaints and all these women supposedly that showed up, and the minute he threatened to sue them, they disappeared immediately because they were fake. And all the bullshit and all the accusations, they'll throw it off the table, and they'll say, what are his accomplishments? Look at how many people, look at the unemployment records, look at the numbers, look what he did for business, look at the stock market, he built the country back up. This guy was a successful president. History will decide, and then all of the rest of it will be a waste.
He just said what I've been saying, that he said that.
So, I mean, all of this stuff, people are complaining without any proof.
Just now, Mike, Donald Trump says that and it's breaking on the news right now, he says that that there will be violence if the Republicans don't win the midterm. So he just said that. He warns of violence if Republicans lose.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there was a choice and somebody put something like Clinton in there, I'd be down in Washington. And I'm sure many, and I don't have the time right now. I mean, even though I had that hip replacement, son of a bitch, I'd get on a train and I'd be down there.
Yeah, well, bottom line is that we all should have a voice in what's going on in our democracy.
Oh, it'd be more than a voice. I'd be down there. I'd be there. Because I would not want to see these fools, these idiots like Clinton's come back into power and take this country back and start putting money back into OSHA, start putting the taxes back up, start put everything back the way that Obama did with the idiot. That fool, he didn't have one professional from anything in the business world. He had nobody that was experienced in the business world working as an advisor even for the White House. They had he had snot-nosed kids, idiots, utopians, some of these socialists out there advising him on what to do for business, and the biggest theme they could come up with was, you didn't build that? What do you mean you didn't build that? Well, actually, the government didn't build it either. The government wouldn't exist if they didn't get a loan from a small businessman to be able to pay the Continental Army, if they want to look into history. So the government wouldn't exist if it wasn't for small business. But in their mind, small business is evil. The money and everything, oh my goodness, the socialist attitudes. We have to neuter those businesses like Elizabeth Warren. We take over those companies. That's what we have to do. These people are out of their minds. That's not America.
That's the laissez-faire supply and demand concept. So that if what's happening now is that first of all, these guys in power now aren't legislators. For the most part, they're business people. I don't know how good that is for America, ultimately.
That's excellent, because look at the Dow Jones. Look at the stock market. Look what's happening with
only
business.
Temporary. That's only temporary.
No, I'll tell you, I got a friend of mine that just triple the size of his company, his factory down south. He just added on, tripled the size of it, hired more people. He's producing more and selling like crazy now and exporting stuff too. His company's doing fantastic. Do you think all of a sudden that company is just overnight going to stop doing business, stop exporting, and the market's going to dry up for him? No.
Not overnight.
It's not going to happen.
But what I was saying, it's not going to be up to him. It's going to be some fraction of that's going to be an occurrence in the monetary policy, because this is all artificial, Mike. All of this money around here, we've got tons of money around here. We got more money than we know what to do with after TARP and the street QEs. We are awash in cash, and we have to wind it down slowly, or else we'll inflation will jump to freaking 10%. So we've got to make sure that we wind this money down from all those QEs. The banks have got to keep their end of the bargain by making it look good, by having all these caps.
Yeah.
We have
except for one thing. As the companies end up taking money and reinvesting and doing capital investments with equipment, and they are. I just told you, I have a friend of mine with a furniture company that just tripled the size of his factory. And many other people. Look at U.S. Steel. With the new plant, they just opened that new steel mill. Reopened it.
But they're unwinding their monies. Most of their monies that's money that should have been going into their businesses 10, 15 years ago.
It couldn't because of the restrictions that the government had.
But I wanted to say something. I noticed, Don, I noticed you kind of swing with the tides. Like if it comes down to a debate between who would be the better president now, between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, you know damn well Donald Trump is the better choice. But it's easy for you to jump on the bandwagon of the mainstream media narratives and say he's taking a page out of Hitler's notebook and things like that. I've seen you switch. I've seen you play on Trump's side and say he's doing a good job, and I've seen you attack him just like everybody else. It seems like either you don't really believe what you said when you supported what he was doing with business, or you're just learning how to speak both sides so you can go to the meetings with the people that only think one way.
Some of that's all of the above. I'm a lobbyist. I've worked both sides of the aisle. I'm very good at it. And so
you got to have your own values and opinions, though. You can't just flip-flop back and forth because I can't figure out what you actually think.
But it's not flip-flopping. If you follow what I'm saying in most instances, I have specific agenda items that I categorize, not just Donald Trump in as an example, but I'll do it for everyone. Everyone or everything has facets to it, parts to it. And those parts have to be, in my opinion, individualized. They have to be looked at individually in order to see what the composite will look like in the end. And so that's what I do. If I'm talking about Donald Trump's business acumen, I'm talking about him as a businessman. That's his forte, being able to, and when I say temporarily, Mike, I'm just talking about a temporary bump until something artificial interferes with the interaction of the economy in this particular instance. But I compartmentalize those things so that, and I used to coach. I coached for 20 years youth sports. And so critiquing every facet, every iota, and I hate micromanaging, so I just compartmentalize and present that information to whomever and let them decide what the ultimate decision is going to be. But, and if I don't necessarily judge any person centrally or with just one blanket statement, if you will.
Why are you all bad-mouthing the Democrats? You don't think a donkey could kick an elephant's ass.
Where's that coming from?
I'm trying to figure out who that. The only person I can.
Who's that voice?
Jane never left.
Yeah, I was just saying the only one who would say that is Jane. I think.
I couldn't understand what she said.
No, she's saying something.
It was
like,
Google Translate.
Oh, what language are you using?
English.
I don't know. Mike is joking.
This is Hillary Clinton. Why are you all bad-mouthing the Democrats? You don't think
very nice to make it your acquaintance. We appreciate you for to come into a radio show to join us. Very nice for you to come here. Thank you very much.
There you go. That's Trump. That's all good.
I'm hiring you for my next theater gig.
But you guys have to understand also that I'm coming from a state, and I'm trying to push the millennials here. I give them entitlements, and we're in a purple state, and the nonpartisan independent voter is an integral part of everything that we are doing politically here in Nevada. And so we're looking
Don,
at
can I finish my punchline? You know how to spell Hillary Clinton in Russian? It's K-H-I-L-L-A-R-I. Hillary.
Okay.
Hillary.
That's appropriate.
Почему вы все плохо читаете демократов? Ты не думаешь, что ослик может ударить пополам слона?
Okay, Don, finish your point, and I'll let you talk.
No, I pretty much finished my point. I hope that I answered Ben's question because it's not as a simple answer. That
wasn't
complex.
A simple answer. That was like I've never seen so much beating around the bush. Like
no, there is no beat. If I see a person walking down the street, I'm gonna and I have the inclination to assess them. I'm gonna assess them with every part of their body individually at first, and then determine a composite of their entire being, physical stature. That's an example of what I just said earlier. Is that and that's if I'm going to look at his arms, I'm going to look at his right arm, I'm going to look at the sway of his left arm, the gait of his left leg and his right leg, and see if he's pigeon-toed or bow-legged. I'll be assessing every inch of a person's anatomy, their head movement, if they're, how far they're bent over, how much they're bent backwards. I'll assess every part of that person in just a couple seconds and be able to determine if there is a problem or if there is a happiness or a good time. I own a business, Dance Fitness and Nutrition. So every centimeter of the body, the weight, volume, everything that that you look at a person, the sag of their belly and arms and legs and thighs. That's what I do. That's my job, and that's the same kind of concept, philosophical concept that I go through in terms of determining my political values and judgment and position. And I am moderate, relatively middle down the road. I can see the libertarian point of view, except they become a little bit too constrained by the numbers. But I'm working with a couple of, possibly will be working. I started working with a couple of independent parties so that we can possibly form a cohesive independent party. The independent.
Right, but as soon as you get into a discussion with the independents, you find out which way they are, and if you start to disagree, you're gonna soon find out if you're left of them or right of them. Right,
and that's fine with me because they're the independents are those are the voters that interest me. In that
what it comes down to when you get into a political debate and you try and form a party of like-minded voters and thinkers, what it comes down to is who do you want the guns pointed at? Because that's what I see with the difference, the biggest difference between the libertarian and the right-wing conservative constitutionalists. The difference between them, because they have more in common with each other than they do with socialists and left-wing policies. What the left-wing wants to do is take every aspect of freedom that you have and socialize it and give the responsibility to the government They don't want you to have private property. They don't want you to have the right to defend yourself. They don't want you to drive without a permit. They don't want you to have park without a permit. Everything is controlled about your life.
Ben, that again, just like there's a far, far, far right, that's the far, far, far left. We have a couple of people who are on the
exactly, but it comes down to I made it simple though. I gave you two extremes, and one of them wants to basically be legally, lawfully able to live their life how they want, with their own freedoms. The other one wants to tell you how basically replace all your freedoms with privileges that you would have to pay your taxes for. That's why I cannot compromise with the left, because they've gone so far off the deep end of socialism and controlling people's lives that I can't even compromise. I can't even listen to them.
That's why I can't hardly listen to the far right, because they are doing compromising.
Because you need control in your life? Who needs more control nowadays?
To be free, you need to think like they think, and that's wrong. That's not freedom. What you just said applies to both parties. It applies to all things when it comes down to giving something.
Did you hear my simplified point, though? My simplified point is, on the left, what you're doing is dictating who you want somebody else to point guns at for you. Because that's what everything comes down to. That's basically the end game. If you don't pay the fee,
why do we have to point guns at anybody?
That's how it works. That's how the left works. Because the left does not point. The left does not want you to defend yourself. They want somebody to point a gun at you.
Ben, I want to ask a question to you and Mike. Remember earlier tonight, Don, I got to say something important. Earlier tonight, right. Ben asked me what conservatives did I think were so far to the right that they were kind of like a threat. Well, I did look up a list tonight, but I found something compelling. Has anyone ever heard of Senator Tom Cotton?
Yes.
He's from Arkansas. Yes. Well, he's kind of remarkable in a couple senses. One sense is that he got his 4-year degree, then he got accepted into a prestigious grad school, but he quit because he thought it was boring. So then he beelined over to the Harvard Law and got a Juris Doctor and was also on the Harvard Law Review like Obama. But then, right after law school, he joined the Army. He was probably like 30 by then. And he served in the infantry level and got a bunch of success on many different levels, including a lot of battles in Iraq. And then in June of 2006, while stationed in Iraq, Cotton gained international public attention after he wrote an open letter to the editor of the New York Times accusing 3 journalists of violating espionage laws by publishing an article detailing a Bush administration secret program that monitored terrorist finances. The New York Times didn't publish a letter, but another publisher called Powerline did, a conservative blog. And in the letter, Cotton called for journalists responsible to be held in prison for espionage and all this other stuff. So I guess in one sense, I was looking up conservative extremists, but I kind of admire this guy because he gave up all his education to join the military in 2005, and then he went on the front line in Iraq and Afghanistan to fight, not for something that I necessarily believe in, but he believes in. And he was successful in many battles. So this seems like a rather gutsy senator, but it wouldn't be somebody that I was opposed to answer your question, Ben.
That's what I was. That's basically what I was saying, though.
This is important, Don, because we're trying to like the news talks in vague. They talk vaguely like there are political fractionalism on the side, and there's tribalism within the party, but they never say who's doing it. They're just talking in vague definitions.
That's because they're all doing, the Republicans are all doing it because that's how they work.
And do you see my point, Don, about the Democrat side, the left? The only discussion is who's going to have guns pointed at them and why. That's when you base your party on taking something and giving it to someone else, taking somebody's earned money and giving it to somebody you choose to give it to, then you need somebody to enforce that for you. There's
nobody else in the world
at the end game of every policy in the Democratic side.
But there's nobody else in the world that this happens to. Nobody else in the world is this capable of happening to. Everybody else has either generally a socialist democratic regime, or they've got a dictatorship or whatever that has guns pointed at you. We're trying not to have anybody have guns pointed at anybody. And when I say that, I mean people of peace. I mean people of peace, and that might be a part of the independent, nonpartisan new party that I put together. But this is something that we have to work on right now, and polarization. You know, I'm not trying to polarize anybody really, except the white man. The white man is the bearer of all this brutishness.